That little girl said, "Mister, give me $5 and I'll bring your mom back to life." The millionaire at his mother's wake takes an unexpected action. Share your thoughts on what you think will happen. Your opinion is very important, and subscribe to my channel to support my work. Your help is greatly appreciated. The gray skies over Cape May, New Jersey, seemed to share the grief gripping Theodore Teddy Albright's heart that afternoon. The 58-year-old businessman, known for his imposing presence and stern gaze, stood completely vulnerable before his mother, Doris Albright's casket. The white lilies decorating the funeral home couldn't lighten the weight of her last words to him. "My son, all the money in the world can't buy back the time we've lost." Teddy adjusted his tie for the 10th time in as many minutes, a nervous tic that had stayed with him since childhood. His fingers trembled slightly as they touched the fine silk, and his mind drifted back to all the times his mother had done the same for him, always with a gentle smile on her lips. The murmur of voices mixed with the sound of rain beginning to fall outside. His wife, Susan, stood nearby, offering restrained nods to acquaintances who came to offer their condolences. At 55, she was the picture of the dignity expected of the wife of one of the region's most prominent men. Then something unexpected happened. A small figure emerged from the crowd as if out of thin air. A girl of about 6, with wild, curly hair and a simple dress that had seen better days, stopped before Teddy, her large, expressive eyes fixed on his with unsettling intensity. "Mister," she said in a low but clear voice, "give me $5 and I'll bring your mom back to life." The funeral parlor fell into a sudden, heavy silence. Susan gasped, horrified by the child's audacity. Some of the ladies nearby exchanged disapproving glances, while others seemed to pity the little intruder. But Teddy couldn't look away from those eyes. There was something about them that intrigued him deeply. It wasn't the glint of malice or cleverness he sometimes saw in children, begging for money on the street. It was something different, something he couldn't explain. "What's your name, little one?" he asked, his normally firm voice slightly hoarse. "Lily," she replied without hesitation. "And I know that lady over there is your mum because she fixes her clothes the same way you do when you're nervous." Teddy felt a chill run down his spine. How could this child have noticed such a detail? He unconsciously reached for his tie again, stopping mid-gesture as he realized what he was doing. An elderly woman, dressed simply but with dignity, hurried over. "Lily, for goodness sake, child." She took the child's hand, turning to Teddy with an apologetic look. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Albright. This girl sometimes says the strangest things." "It's all right," he replied, surprising himself. Under any other circumstances, he would have been furious at such an interruption. But something about this child kept him from feeling anger. "And you are—" "June, her grandmother," the woman answered, still embarrassed. "We came to offer our condolences. Doris was always so good to us." Before anyone could stop him, Teddy took his wallet from his pocket and handed Lily a $5 bill. Susan tried to intervene, but he stopped her with a gesture. The girl took the money and, to everyone's surprise, ran out of the parlor. June started to follow her, but Teddy stopped her with a gentle gesture. "Let her be," he said. "Let's see what she intends to do." 15 minutes later, Lily returned, completely soaked by the rain, carrying a bouquet of wildflowers in her small hands. With the naturalness of someone performing the most normal task in the world, she approached the casket and placed the flowers beside Doris. "People don't really disappear," she said, her childish voice carrying a wisdom that didn't match her age. "They come back different, sometimes as butterflies, sometimes as flowers. Your mom will come back in all these flowers, mister, and also in that hummingbird that always appears in your garden in the morning." Teddy felt his legs weaken. How did this child know about the hummingbird? It was a detail only his mother knew. Every morning, while they had coffee together on the porch, she pointed out the little bird visiting the garden flowers. The businessman observed the wild flowers, simple but vibrant, contrasting with the sophisticated arrangements decorating the funeral home. They were daisies, Doris's favorite, something he had completely forgotten when organizing the ceremony. His older brother, Oswald, approached with his usual disapproving expression. At 63, he always found a way to criticize Teddy's decisions, even though he was only a minority partner in the family business. "You shouldn't encourage this kind of thing," Oswald murmured. "Have you thought about what people will say? The mighty Teddy Albright giving money to a ragamuffin to buy weeds." But Teddy didn't reply. His eyes were fixed on Lily, who was now talking quietly to Doris's portrait placed near the casket. The scene triggered a strange feeling in him, as if something long dormant was beginning to awaken in his chest. At that moment, as the rain continued to fall outside and the world seemed to have stopped inside the funeral home, Teddy Albright didn't know that this small interruption in his grief would be the beginning of a journey that would completely unchange his life. He couldn't imagine that this fragile-looking girl with a deep gaze would be the key to unlocking long-buried secrets and healing wounds he didn't even know he carried. Night fell over Cape May, and with it, the first chapter of a story that would mix improbable destinies, reveal hidden truths, and prove that sometimes you have to lose everything to find what really matters. Lily had planted a seed that day, and like the wildflower she brought, it would grow in ways no one could predict. 3 days after the funeral, Teddy couldn't get Lily's image out of his head. Sitting in his office at Albright Supermarkets headquarters, he constantly found himself looking out the window, reliving every detail of that encounter. The girl's words about the hummingbird echoed in his mind, disturbing his usual focus on business. The afternoon sun was already setting when his secretary, Marlene, announced over the intercom that Susan had arrived. His wife entered the room. With her usual measured steps, her high heels clicking on the marble floor with military precision. She wore an impeccable skirt and blazer suit, and her face was marked by an expression of concern that she tried unsuccessfully to hide. "Teddy, we need to talk," she began, sitting in the chair in front of his desk. "You haven't been yourself since—" She hesitated, as if choosing her words carefully. "Since Doris's funeral." He adjusted his tie, his nervous tic manifesting again. "What are you talking about?" "You know very well. You haven't slept well these past few nights. You keep staring into space, and this morning—" She paused dramatically. "This morning, you were in the garden at 5 o'clock, Teddy. In the garden, looking for a hummingbird." The businessman felt his face flush. It was true. For the first time in years, he had woken up before sunrise, driven by an inexplicable need to check if what Lily had said was true. And there was the bird, exactly as his mother always described, visiting the garden flowers in the first ray of sunlight. "Susan, don't you think it's strange? How could that girl know about the hummingbird?" "For heaven's sake, Teddy!" Susan raised her voice, a rare occurrence in her always controlled demeanor. She was just a clever child wanting a few bucks. She'd probably seen the bird before or heard someone mention it. "You're giving too much importance to a coincidence." But it wasn't just a coincidence, and Teddy knew it. There was something more, something he hadn't told anyone, not even Susan. The night before, while reviewing some old documents of his mother, he found a yellowed envelope. Inside, there was a photograph from over 50 years ago. His mother, young and smiling, holding a bouquet of daisies identical to the ones Lily had brought to the funeral. The sound of heels in the hallway interrupted his thoughts. Marlene hurried into the room, her normally serene face showing agitation. "Mr. Albright, I'm sorry to interrupt, but your brother Oswald is here with the company lawyer. They say it's urgent." Before Teddy could answer, Oswald burst through the door, followed by Dr. Henderson, the corporate lawyer who had served the family for decades. The older brother carried a briefcase of documents under his arm and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Little bro," Oswald began, using the nickname he knew Teddy detested. I think we need to have a chat about the board's latest decision." Teddy stiffened in his chair. At the last meeting, he had vetoed Oswald's proposal to close 3 smaller branches of the supermarket chain, which, although less profitable, employed about 200 people from the local community. "There's nothing to talk about, Oswald. My decision stands." "Oh, but there is." Oswald opened the briefcase and spread some documents on the table. "You've been too distracted lately, little bro. So distracted that you haven't noticed some irregularities in the latest financial statements." Teddy's blood ran cold. He picked up the papers and began to examine them quickly, his face losing color with each line he read. They were financial reports from the past 3 months, and there was something very wrong with the numbers. "This is impossible," he murmured, his mind working frantically. "I checked these reports myself." "No, you checked the copies I showed you," Oswald corrected, his smile widening. "These are the originals. And as you can see, the situation is not good at all." Susan rose and circled the desk to look at the documents over her husband's shoulder. Her face also paled. "What does this mean?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "It means, my dear sister-in-law," Oswald replied with false sweetness, "that if we don't take drastic measures immediately, including closing those branches, we could lose everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything." Teddy felt his head spin. How hadn't he noticed? How had he let this happen? The answer came like a punch to the gut. His mother. In the last months of Doris's life, he had divided his time between the hospital and the business, delegating more responsibilities to Oswald than ever before. "You manipulated the numbers," Teddy accused, his voice low and dangerous. "Prove it," Oswald challenged. "But while you try, the empire our father built will crumble, unless—" He paused dramatically. "Unless you reconsider your position on the branches, and of course give me more autonomy in the company's decisions." At that moment, as if the universe wanted to add another layer of irony to the situation, a hummingbird appeared at the office window. The little bird hovered for a few seconds, its wings beating furiously before disappearing into the twilight. Teddy felt something strange in his chest, a mixture of fear and determination. Lily's words came back to him. "People don't really disappear." Maybe, he thought, his mother was really trying to tell him something. "I need time," he said finally. 24 hours. 12, Oswald counted, until noon tomorrow. After that, these documents go to the oversight board. After everyone had left his office, Teddy remained sitting in silence, watching the night fall over the city. An idea began to form in his mind. It was risky, possibly insane, but something told him it was the right path. He picked up the phone and dialed Marlene. "Please find out where a woman named June lives. She has a granddaughter named Lily. They must live somewhere here in town." "The folk healer?" Marlene asked, surprised. "Everyone knows June. She lives in a little yellow house near the creek, just past the old bridge." Teddy grabbed his keys and his jacket. He was about to do something that the Teddy from a week ago would have considered unthinkable: seek help from a folk healer. But now, with his business empire threatened and the mysterious words of a child echoing in his mind, he was willing to try anything. As he drove along the cobblestone streets of Cape May, Teddy had no idea that he was about to discover secrets that would change not only his fate, but that of everyone around him. The night was just beginning, and with it, a series of revelations that no one could predict. The little yellow house appeared on the curve of the road like an apparition in the darkness. Teddy parked his Mercedes on the dirt road, feeling completely out of place in that simple environment. The wooden gate creaked when he pushed it open, and the strong smell of aromatic herbs filled his nostrils. The garden, even in the twilight, revealed a profusion of plants he had never seen in his life. Before he could knock on the door, he heard the childish voice that hadn't left his head for days. "Grandma, the hummingbird man is here." Teddy felt a chill run down his spine. How did Lily know he was there? The door opened, revealing June. She wore a simple cotton dress and had her grey hair tied in a messy bun. Her eyes, however, shone with a shrewdness that took Teddy by surprise. "I was expecting you," she said, stepping aside. "Come in, the coffee's hot." The interior of the house was as simple as the exterior, but there was something welcoming about the atmosphere. On the walls, dozens of old photographs mixed with pictures of saints. What caught Teddy's attention the most, however, was a child's drawing pinned to the wall. It showed a man in a suit next to a hummingbird. The date in the corner of the paper indicated that it had been made 3 weeks before his mother's funeral. "Lily drew that a while ago," June explained, noticing his fixed gaze on the paper. "She has this gift. She sees things before they happen." "How is that possible?" Teddy asked, his voice trembling slightly. "Sit down, Mr. Albright." June indicated a simple chair at the kitchen table. "There's a lot you need to know." Lily appeared in the kitchen doorway, now wearing unicorn print pajamas. Without ceremony, she sat down next to Teddy and began to draw in a battered notebook. "Your mom is worried," the girl said without looking up from her drawing. "She says you need to look inside the music box." Teddy felt the blood run cold in his veins. His mother's music box was a precious object she kept in her room, but he had never paid much attention to it. How could Lily know about that? "What music box?" June asked, pouring coffee into antique china cups. "The blue box with golden flowers," Lily replied, still focused on her drawing. "There's a secret inside it, but it only appears when the music plays all the way to the end." Teddy ran a hand over his face, feeling increasingly lost. "June, I came here because I need help. My brother, he's trying to take control of the family business. He presented documents that could ruin everything I've built." "The man with the fake papers," Lily said suddenly, looking up from her notebook. "He keeps everything in the green office behind the crooked picture." June sighed deeply. "Mr. Albright, you need to understand something. Lily isn't like other children. Ever since my daughter Clara disappeared, she's developed this sensitivity. At first I thought it was just a child's imagination, but—" "Where is Clara?" Teddy interrupted, remembering that he hadn't seen the girl's mother at the funeral. A heavy silence fell over the kitchen. June wiped away a discreet tear with the corner of her apron. 3 years ago, Clara received an offer to work as a nanny in Los Angeles. It was a good salary, an opportunity to give Lily a better life. But after 6 months, the calls became less frequent until they simply stopped. "Mommy is sad," Lily said, her childish voice carrying a sadness that didn't match her age. "She works hard, but the bad woman won't let her come back." "What bad woman?" Teddy asked, increasingly intrigued. Before anyone could answer, a loud clap of thunder shook the windows of the house. The rain began to fall heavily, and an icy wind invaded the kitchen. "The creek is going to rise," Lily announced, dropping her pencil. "It's going to rise a lot. The water will take everything." As if responding to the girl's words, a deafening roar of rushing water began to approach. June ran to the window and exclaimed in shock, "Good heavens, the creek is overflowing." Teddy joined her at the window and saw, horrified, the water rising rapidly, already reaching the garden. In a matter of minutes, the situation became critical. The force of the current began to uproot the plants in the garden, and the water was already lapping at the doorsill. "We need to get out of here now," Teddy shouted, his survival instinct louder than any mystery or doubt. "But where to?" June asked, already gathering some important documents and photographs. Without thinking twice, Teddy replied, "To my house. You're coming with me." As he helped June and Lily save what they could, Teddy didn't imagine that he was about to unleash a series of events that would forever change not only his life, but that of everyone around him. The rain continued to fall relentlessly, but it was only the beginning of the storm to come. In the back seat of the Mercedes, Lily hugged her drawing notebook tightly, while June held a box of photographs and documents. Teddy drove carefully through the flooded streets, trying to process everything that had happened in the last few hours. "Susan isn't going to like this at all," he muttered to himself, imagining his wife's reaction to seeing that he was bringing two strangers to live in their house. "The woman with the pearl necklace will yell," Lily said calmly from the back seat, "but then she'll understand when she finds out what she did with the letters." Teddy looked in the rearview mirror, intrigued. Susan really always wore a pearl necklace. It was her trademark. But what was this story about letters? At that moment, his cell phone rang. It was Marlene, his secretary. "Mr. Albright, I've discovered something strange about the documents your brother presented today. The letterhead, there's something wrong with it. And there's more. I found a former employee in the finance department who says she really needs to talk to you. She mentioned something about a secret meeting between your brother and a certain Bernice." Teddy felt his heart race. Bernice was his old rival in business, owner of a chain of stores that had always tried to compete with his supermarkets. "Bernice is the bad woman," Lily said from the back seat, as if reading his thoughts. "She keeps many secrets in the basement of the big house." The businessman braked sharply, throwing all three forward. The rain continued to fall heavily, but now a clear idea began to form in his mind. These weren't just coincidences. There was something bigger happening, something that connected all those people and events in a way he couldn't yet fully understand. "Lily!" he called, turning around. "What else do you know about Bernice?" The girl took her notebook and showed a new drawing, a big house with dark windows, and in the basement, a figure that appeared to be a woman, surrounded by papers and folders. "She keeps the evidence," Lily said simply. "The evidence of what the man with the fake papers did. And she also knows where my mom is." June let out a muffled sob, and Teddy felt his world spin. It was impossible that a 6-year-old could know all that, unless Doris was really right all those years, when she said that some people had a special gift, an ability to see beyond what normal eyes could see. The cell phone rang again. It was Oswald. "Little bro, where are you? We need to resolve that issue today. Unless you want everyone to know how our numbers really look." Teddy hung up the phone without answering. He looked at the dark sky through the windshield, where the rain continued to fall relentlessly. Somewhere in that town, there were answers to all his questions, and somehow that little girl in the back seat of his car seemed to be the key to finding them. The Albright mansion stood imposingly against the stormy sky when Teddy parked the car in the garage. The lights in the living room were on, and through the elegant windows, he could see Susan's silhouette pacing back and forth. His heart beat faster as he helped June and Lily out of the car with their few possessions saved from the flood. "Good heavens, Teddy," Susan's voice cut through the air as soon as they entered. She stood in the middle of the room, her pearl necklace gleaming under the crystal chandelier, her hands trembling slightly as she saw the two soaked figures accompanying her husband. "What does this mean?" "Their house was hit by the flood," Teddy explained, his voice firm but gentle. "They need a place to stay." "And it had to be here?" Susan raised her perfectly shaped eyebrows. "There are hotels in town, there are—" "You're scared," Lily interrupted, looking directly at Susan. "Scared that he'll find out about the letters you hid a long time ago. The letters from the girl in the blue dress." Susan's face paled instantly. Her hands flew to her pearl necklace, a nervous gesture that Teddy knew well. What is this girl talking about?" "Marlene," Lily whispered, now drawing something in her notebook. "She was wearing a blue dress when you talked in the garden of the old house. You said you were going to deliver her letters, but you didn't." The silence that followed was deafening. Teddy looked from his wife to the girl, feeling that he was about to discover something that would change everything. Marlene, that name was familiar to him. She was his girlfriend in his youth, before he met Susan. They had broken up after. She simply stopped answering his letters. "Susan," Teddy's voice came out shaky. "What is she talking about?" But before his wife could answer, the doorbell rang. It was almost midnight. Who could it be at this hour? "It's the lady with the numbers," Lily announced without looking up from her drawing. She found out the truth about the fake papers. Teddy opened the door and found Marlene, his secretary, completely soaked and breathless. In her hands, she held a plastic folder protected from the rain. "Mr. Albright," she said, hurrying in, "you need to see this. Regina, the former employee in finance, gave me these documents. They're proof that your brother has been defrauding the numbers for months." Susan took advantage of the distraction to try to leave the room, but Lily stopped her with words that made everyone freeze. "You know my mum too, don't you? Clara worked at your friend Bernice's house. You knew all along where she was." The shock on Susan's face was visible. She staggered to the nearest sofa and collapsed on it, her legs seeming unable to support her. "How can you know this?" she whispered to Lily. "No one knew. No one." June, who until then had been watching everything in silence, stepped forward. "Where is my daughter? Please tell me where my Clara is." At that moment, another bolt of lightning cut through the sky, and the lights in the mansion flickered before going out completely. In the dark, only Lily's childish voice sounded clear. "The picture on the wall of the green office is crooked because it hides a safe. That's where Marlene's letters are. The evidence against the man with the fake papers, and the address where my mom is being held." When the power came back on, seconds later, everyone was looking at Lily. The girl had finished her drawing. It perfectly showed Oswald's office, with its characteristic green wallpaper and the picture that hid the safe. Teddy didn't waste time. He grabbed his cell phone and called August, a private investigator who had done some work for him in the past. "August, I need you now. It's urgent." Meanwhile, Marlene spread the documents she had brought on the coffee table. They were financial reports, but different from those that Oswald had shown earlier. "Look, Mr. Albright," she pointed to the numbers. "Here's the proof. Your brother has been embezzling money for months in partnership with someone from outside. The deposits always go to an account in the name of a company called B&O Enterprises." "Bernice and Oswald," Teddy murmured, the pieces beginning to fall into place. "Yes," Marlene confirmed. "And there's more. Regina told me that she saw Oswald meeting with Bernice several times in the last year, always at strange hours after everyone had already left." Susan began to sob on the sofa. I didn't know it would come to this. Bernice was my childhood friend. She asked me for help hiring a nanny. When I found out it was Clara, June's daughter, it was too late." "Too late for what?" Teddy's voice was filled with contained anger. "Bernice, she found out about the letters. The letters I intercepted 30 years ago between you and Marlene. She blackmailed me, said that if I didn't help keep Clara away, she would tell you everything." "But why Clara?" June asked, her voice choked with emotion. "What does my daughter have to do with it?" It was Lily who answered, still drawing. "Because Mommy found the papers. She was cleaning the office of the big house when she saw the documents she wasn't supposed to see. The bad woman sent her away, to a farm where people work without being able to leave." Teddy's blood ran cold. Labor akin to slavery. Would Bernice be capable of such a thing? The doorbell rang again. It was August, the investigator, a middle-aged man with sharp eyes and a soaked overcoat. "I came as fast as I could," he said, entering. "What did you find out?" Teddy quickly explained the situation, showing the documents that Marlene had brought, and recounting the surprising revelations of the last few hours. "The music box," Lily said suddenly. "You need to get your mum's music box now." Teddy ran upstairs to the room that had belonged to his mother, now closed since her passing. The music box was on the dressing table, covered with a thin layer of dust. It was blue with golden flowers, exactly as Lily had described. When he returned to the living room, everyone watched in silence as he turned the crank. A soft melody filled the room, an old lullaby that his mother used to sing. When the music came to an end, a soft click was heard, and a secret compartment opened at the bottom of the box. Inside was a yellowed envelope and an antique key. "The key to the safe," Lily said. "Doris kept it when she found the first wrong papers a long time ago. She knew that one day you would need it." Teddy felt tears in his eyes. His mother always said that one day he would understand why she insisted so much, that he pay attention to the small details, to the coincidences that weren't really coincidences. "We need to go to Oswald's office now," he said, wiping his eyes. "August, you're coming with me. Marlene, stay here with June and Lily and Susan." He looked at his wife, who seemed to have aged 10 years that night. "I think we have a lot to talk about when I get back." As Teddy and August headed out into the stormy night, Lily completed another drawing in her notebook. It showed a sun rising over the town, and several people gathered smiling. In the corner of the paper, a hummingbird hovered over a newly opened flower. The truth was about to come to light, and with it, the chance to correct past mistakes and reunite families separated by greed and fear. But first, they needed to survive the storm that wasn't over yet, both the one falling from the sky and the one that was about to explode at the heart of the Albright family business. The rain battered the car mercilessly as Teddy and August headed toward the office. The windshield wipers struggled to keep up with the cascading water, making visibility almost non-existent. In the passenger seat, August examined the documents Marlene had obtained, his expression growing increasingly serious. "This is much bigger than accounting fraud, Teddy," he said, adjusting his fogged glasses. "Based on the numbers I'm seeing here, your brother and Bernice have set up a complex money laundering scheme. They've been preparing this for at least 2 years. Teddy gripped the steering wheel so tightly that his knuckles turned white. 2 years. That was exactly the period when his mother began to get sick, when he began to be away from the company, more to care for her. What else can you see in these documents? There's a series of transfers to offshore accounts, all related to B&O Enterprises. But the most interesting thing is this," August pointed to a series of numbers. They bought a farm upstate 3 years ago, exactly when Clara disappeared." Teddy's cell phone vibrated. It was a message from Lily, sent from Marlene's phone. "Watch out for the man with the scar on his face. He's waiting for you." As if responding to the warning, a black car appeared behind them, its high beams reflecting in the rearview mirror. Teddy immediately recognized the driver. It was Jerry, the head of Bernice's private security, famous for his scar that cut across his face from forehead to chin. "We're being followed," Teddy murmured, making a sharp turn to the right. "Keep heading towards the office," August instructed, grabbing his cell phone. "I've already alerted some contacts. We'll have backup when we get there." The building where Oswald's office was located was an old structure in the center of town. During the day, it was a bustling location, but at that hour of the night with the storm, the streets were deserted. As soon as they parked, Jerry stopped, his car a few yards behind. Teddy and August quickly entered the building, their soaked clothes leaving a wet trail on the marble floor of the lobby. "He won't try anything in here," August said as they climbed the stairs. "There are cameras everywhere." When they reached the office floor, however, they found the door ajar. Someone was already there. "Knew you'd come, little bro." Oswald was sitting in the leather chair behind his desk, a half-empty glass of whiskey in his hand. His normally controlled face showed signs of tension, and his eyes had a feverish gleam. "It's over, Oswald," Teddy said, advancing into the room. We have proof of your fraud." "Proof?" Oswald laughed, a humorless sound. "And what do you think you'll find in that safe behind the picture? Do you really think I'd be so idiotic as to keep incriminating documents here?" Teddy froze. How did Oswald know they were coming for the safe? "The little seer," Oswald continued, taking a sip of his drink. "Fascinating child, isn't she? Bernice told me about her. Seems she inherited the gift from her healer grandmother. But even seers can be fooled, you know." At that moment, Teddy realized that the picture that supposedly hid the safe was different from Lily's drawing. It wasn't crooked, it was perfectly aligned. "You've already emptied the safe," he concluded, feeling his stomach sink. 2 hours ago," Oswald confirmed with a satisfied smile, "as soon as Bernice warned me that Susan was about to open her mouth. That woman has never been good at keeping secrets under pressure." "Where's Clara?" Teddy asked, his voice trembling with anger. "Ah, the nosy housekeeper?" Oswald shrugged. "She's fine, believe me. Bernice is very good at convincing people to stay quiet and in their place, especially when those people have families to protect." Teddy's cell phone vibrated again. Another message from Lily. "The real safe is under the loose board, under the Persian rug. The key from the music box opens it too." Teddy felt his heart race. He discreetly looked at the floor and noticed a slight ripple in the antique rug that covered part of the floor. "You know, Oswald," he said, taking a step forward, "Mum always said you were too predictable, always hiding things in the most obvious places." Oswald's expression changed subtly. "What are you talking about?" "Your collection of trading cards when we were kids. You always hid them behind the pictures in your room. Mum thought it was so funny that you never thought of more creative places." As he spoke, Teddy moved around the room, approaching the rug. August, understanding the plan, positioned himself near the door, blocking a possible escape. "And she also always said," Teddy continued, "that you were afraid of the basement. That's why you never looked for anything down there where she kept the Christmas presents." Oswald stood up abruptly, knocking over the glass of whiskey. "Enough about Mom. You were always her favorite, weren't you? The perfect son, the successful businessman." "No," Teddy replied, now just one step away from the rug. "I was just the son who learned to pay attention to the details." With a quick movement, he pulled the rug away, revealing a board that was visibly lighter than the others. Oswald lunged forward, but August was faster, grabbing him by the arms. "You don't want to do this," August warned. "My contacts are already positioned downstairs. Jerry won't be able to help you this time." Teddy knelt down and removed the loose board. There, embedded in the floor, was a small safe. With trembling hands, he inserted the key from the music box. It fit perfectly. Inside the safe, he found a folder full of documents, a flash drive, and a bundle of letters yellowed with time. Marlene's letters that Susan had intercepted so many years ago. But there was something more, a series of recent photographs. In them, Clara appeared working on an isolated farm with other people who seemed as lost as she was. In one of the photos, Bernice supervised the location, her face contorted in an expression of cruel authority. "It's over, Oswald," Teddy said, leafing through the documents. "Here's everything. Proof of the fraud, records of the illegal transfers, even receipts for payments to keep people in conditions akin to slavery on the farm." "You don't understand," Oswald whispered, now his voice breaking. "Bernice, she has evidence against me too. Things I did a long time ago, even before this scheme started." "Then it's time to do the right thing," Teddy replied, "for the first time in your life." At that moment, another message from Lily arrived. "The bad woman is trying to escape. She's going to the airport with all the evidence she kept against the man with the fake papers." Teddy looked at August, who nodded. "My contacts are already watching her too. She won't be able to get far in this storm." While August alerted the authorities, Teddy found something at the bottom of the safe that made his heart stop. a letter written by his mother, dated just a week before her passing. "My son," the letter began, "if you're reading this, it's because you've finally learned to see beyond appearances. I always knew about your brother's schemes, but I also knew that you needed to discover it for yourself. Sometimes we need to lose something precious to find something even more valuable. Little Lily has a special gift, not the gift of seeing the future, but of seeing the truth that adults insist on ignoring. Take care of her and June, and remember, people don't really disappear. They just transform, like the butterflies you admired so much as a child." Teddy couldn't hold back the tears. Outside, the storm began to subside, and the first rays of the morning sun timidly penetrated through the cracks in the clouds. Somewhere in the city, a hummingbird began its morning flight, carrying with it the last drops of rain from the longest night in the history of the Albrights. Dawn found the Albright mansion in a heavy silence. In the living room, June slept restlessly. On the sofa, while Lily drew sitting on the rug, her colored pencils gliding across the paper with impressive precision. Susan was sitting in an armchair, still wearing her elegant outfit from the night before, now wrinkled. Her hands didn't stop fidgeting with the pearl necklace, and her red eyes betrayed a sleepless night. Marlene, who hadn't left the house as Teddy had asked, was serving coffee for everyone when the phone rang. It was August. "Bernice was intercepted at the airport," he reported, his voice tired but satisfied. "She had a suitcase full of documents and a one-way ticket to Paraguay. But there's something strange. She's laughing. She says she has a final trump card, something no one expected." Lily, who had apparently overheard the conversation even from the other side of the room, raised her head from her drawing. "She hid something important in the old house," the girl said, her hands now working frantically on a new drawing, "the place where it all began." Susan let out a muffled exclamation. "The old house, her parents' house." "What's there?" Marlene asked, approaching with interest. "It's where we used to meet when we were young," Susan explained, her voice trembling. "Me, Bernice, and Marlene." The name caused a momentary silence in the room. Lily continued drawing, now with even more intensity. "It was there that everything happened," Susan continued, the words coming out as if she could no longer contain them. "In that house, 30 years ago, Bernice convinced me to intercept the letters between Teddy and Marlene. She said it was for his own good, that Marlene didn't deserve him. But the truth is that Bernice has always been obsessed with Teddy, since adolescence." "And you helped her," June said, who had woken up and was now listening attentively. "Yes," Susan admitted, tears streaming down her face. "I intercepted the letters and gave them to Bernice. She kept them as a trophy. Then when Teddy was devastated, thinking that Marlene had abandoned him, Bernice suggested that I get closer to him. She said it would be better that way, that I could make him happy." "You didn't tell the most important part," Lily interrupted, without taking her eyes off her drawing. "About who my mom's mother is." Susan paled even further, if that were possible. Her hands squeezed the pearl necklace so tightly that the string broke, scattering the pearls across the floor of the room. How can you know this?" "Marlene is my grandmother," Lily said simply. "You knew that when you saw my mom Clara for the first time, didn't you? That's why you let Bernice take her away." June jumped to her feet. "What? Marlene? Marlene is the mother who abandoned my Clara when she was a baby?" "No!" exclaimed Susan. "Marlene never abandoned anyone. We made her believe that the baby had passed away. Bernice forged documents, convinced Marlene that there was no hope. She went into deep depression. Left town. That's when we gave Clara to you, June. Bernice said it would be better that way, that the girl would have a simpler life, away from all the drama." The sound of Lily's pencil breaking cut through the air. The girl had finished. Her drawing, it showed the old house, a Victorian building on top of a hill. In the attic of the house, a female figure cried, leaning over an old box. "Grandma Marlene still goes there," Lily said. "Every 15th, which is the day they said the baby had passed away. She doesn't know that it was a lie. She doesn't know that my mom grew up right here in town." At that moment, Teddy entered the room. He was exhausted, his clothes still damp from the rain, but his eyes shone with renewed determination. Seeing the pearls scattered on the floor and the tense expressions of everyone, he stopped at the door. "What happened here?" "The truth," Lily replied, handing him her drawing. "The whole truth." Teddy examined the drawing and then looked at his wife, who was now sobbing openly. "Marlene," he said, his voice hoarse, "you and Bernice, you destroyed her life, and mine, and that of an innocent child." "There's more," Lily said, now producing another drawing quickly. "In the old house, in the attic, there's a blue box, just like your mum's. Bernice kept all the evidence there, the real letters, the false documents about the baby, photos, and there's also a diary. The diary tells the whole plan. And today is the 15th, Marlene remembered, consulting her cell phone. "Marlene will be there," Lily completed. "She always goes there at that time when the sun is rising." Teddy didn't waste time. "August," he said on the phone, "send your men to the old Romano house on the hill and find an address for me. I need to know where Marlene is living now." "No need," Lily said, finishing her new drawing. "She never left town. She lives in the blue house near the church, alone. She spends her days giving piano lessons to underprivileged children." Susan stood up, her legs wobbly. "Teddy, Not now," he cut her off. "First, we're going to fix what you destroyed. 30 years is too long to keep so many lies." "I'll go with you," June said, grabbing her purse. "I need to meet my granddaughter's real grandmother." Lily got up too, collecting her drawings. "We need to go quickly. Grandma Marlene is almost at the old house, and there's one more thing you need to know." "What is it?" Teddy asked, already heading for the door. "Doris knew everything," Lily revealed. "In the last few months, she found out the truth. That's why she bought a music box just like the one in the attic. She wanted you to find the evidence, but in the right way, at the right time." Teddy felt his legs weaken. His mother, always so observant, always so attentive to details. She had planned everything, even knowing that she wouldn't be here to see the outcome. "There's one last thing," Lily said, taking a last drawing from her folder. It was a portrait of Doris, smiling, with a hummingbird perched on her hand. "She asked me to tell you that now you understand why she always said that nothing is by chance." The morning sun was already high when the group left the mansion. Susan stayed behind, alone with her pearls scattered on the floor, symbols of a life, built on lies that now finally were coming to light. On the way to the old house, Teddy looked in the rearview mirror and saw Lily sitting in the back seat, calm, as if all this was just another one of her drawings coming to life. The girl smiled at him, a smile so reminiscent of his mother that his heart ached. A hummingbird crossed the car's path, hovering for a moment in front of the windshield before continuing its flight. And for the first time in a long time, Teddy was absolutely certain that he was on the right track. The old Romano house stood against the morning sky like a silent sentinel of long-held secrets. Its dusty windows reflected the first rays of sunlight, and the ivy covering part of the facade gave the place an air of abandonment that matched its history of lies and broken hearts. When Teddy parked the car, they saw another vehicle already parked in front of the house, a well-maintained blue Beetle with some music note stickers on the rear window. "That's her car," Lily whispered. "Grandma Marlene arrived 10 minutes ago." June squeezed her granddaughter's hand, seeking strength for what was to come. After so many years of raising Clara as her daughter, Discovering that she had been part of such an elaborate plan of deception was almost unbearable. "She's in the attic," Lily continued, her eyes focused on the upper windows of the house. "She's kneeling near the blue box, but today is different. Today she found the key." "What key?" Teddy asked, his heart racing. "The one that was hidden in the piano's sounding board. Doris put it there the last time she went to tea with her." August, who had arrived moments before with two of his investigators, approached the group. "The house is secure. Bernice no longer has access to it. The property has been frozen by the investigation." They climbed the steps of the porch in silence. The old wood creaked under their feet, as if the house itself protested against the revelation of its secrets. The front door was unlocked. The interior of the house was a time capsule. Furniture covered with dusty sheets, old photographs on the walls, a grand piano in the center of the main room. Lily walked straight to the instrument and touched a single key, an A minor, that echoed through the house like a sigh. "That was the note Grandma Marlene always played before starting her lessons," she said. "Mom remembers the sound, even though she never took lessons with her." A muffled sob from upstairs made everyone freeze. Teddy made a move to climb the stairs, but Lily stopped him. "Wait," she asked, grabbing her drawing notebook. "She needs to see this first." The girl carefully tore out a page and folded it into a paper airplane. With the precision of someone who had done it 1,000 times, she launched the airplane towards the stairs. It glided gracefully to the second floor and disappeared into the hallway. Seconds later, they heard hurried footsteps and an exclamation of surprise. Marlene appeared at the top of the stairs, Lily's drawing in her trembling hands. At 57, she maintained the same elegance that Teddy remembered, although her dark hair was now streaked with grey. Her eyes, the same honey color as Lily's, were wide with astonishment. This is impossible," she murmured, looking from the drawing to the girl. "How can you know? How can you have drawn—" The drawing showed a scene from 30 years ago. A young Marlene in the hospital holding a newborn baby. Next to her, a nurse, who they now knew to be Bernice in disguise, smiled maliciously. And in the corner of the paper, almost hidden, was the blue box from the attic, identical to Doris's music box. "Because I know the truth," Lily replied simply. "Just as I know that you play Für Elise every morning, thinking of the baby you thought you had lost." "But she didn't pass away, Grandma. She grew up right here in Cape May." Marlene descended the stairs as if in a trance, her eyes fixed on Lily. When she reached the last step, she knelt down to be at the girl's height. "You have the same eyes," she whispered. "The same eyes as her, as my daughter, and as your granddaughter," June completed, her voice choked with emotion. "I raised Clara as my daughter, but I always knew that there was something different about her. The way she played the piano without ever having learned, as if the music lived inside her." Marlene covered her mouth with her hands, tears running freely down her face. "Clara, that's her name? Where is she? Is she all right?" It was Teddy who answered, his grave voice laden with emotion. "We're going to find her, Marlene. We already know where Bernice is keeping her. But first, we need the box from the attic." As if waking from a dream, Marlene stood up. "The box. Yes, after all these years, today I finally found the key. It was inside the piano in an envelope with my name. I thought it was just another trick played by my mind, another of the many times I imagined finding answers. But it was real." They went up to the attic, where the blue box rested on an old dresser. It was identical to Doris's music box, down to the smallest detail of the golden flowers. "Your mother came to visit me last month," Marlene told Teddy. As they approached the box, it was the first time in all these years. She asked for forgiveness for not realizing it sooner, said that she had discovered something terrible, but before she could tell me everything, "She got sick," Teddy completed. and left the clues so that we could find the truth at the right time. Marlene inserted the key into the lock of the box. The mechanism turned smoothly, as if it had been recently lubricated. Inside, in addition to the letters and documents they expected to find, there was something more. A modern flash drive, clashing with the old content of the box. "It's from your mother," Lily said to Teddy. "She recorded everything she discovered in the last few months. All the conversations with Bernice, all the evidence." August took the flash drive carefully. "This explains why Bernice was so confident even after being caught. She didn't know about this box. She didn't know that Doris had discovered everything." Teddy leafed through the old letters with trembling hands. There was all his love story with Marlene, every word that had never reached its destination. Letters full of dreams, plans for the future, and finally, the news that would change everything. Marlene was pregnant. "I tried to tell you," Marlene said, touching one of the letters with affection. "I wrote so many times, but when I received the news that the baby that she had, I couldn't continue. Bernice convinced me to leave town, said it would be better for everyone. And she orchestrated everything," June completed. "Handed Clara over to me, saying she was an abandoned baby who needed a home. I never questioned. I was so happy to have a daughter." A noise from downstairs made everyone jump. Footsteps, climbing the stairs, a panting breath. "It's the woman with the broken necklace," Lily announced calmly. She couldn't stay away. Susan appeared in the doorway of the attic, her face marked by tears and remorse. Her neck, once adorned with the pearl necklace, was bare. "I needed to come," she said, her voice almost a whisper. "I needed to see with my own eyes the result of everything I helped build. All this pain, all these interrupted lives." "What did Bernice have on you?" Teddy asked, staring at his wife. "Why did you keep helping her all these years?" "Because she knew," Susan hesitated, looking at the floor. "She knew that before all this, before the letters, I was also in love with you, Teddy. Since adolescence. Bernice used that against me, said she would help me be with you if I helped her with her plan. And then it was too late to turn back." A ray of sunlight entered through the attic window, illuminating the dust dancing in the air. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of pencil on paper. Lily had started a new drawing. "What are you drawing now?" Marlene asked, approaching the granddaughter she had just discovered. "The next chapter," Lily replied, her eyes focused on the paper. "Because this story isn't over yet. We still have to get my mom from the farm. And there's one more thing that nobody knows yet. Something that will change everything." Teddy felt a chill run down his spine. Even with all the revelations of that morning, something told him that the biggest secret was yet to come. Somewhere, a hummingbird fluttered its wings against the attic window, as if agreeing. The contents of Doris's flash drive projected on the wall of August's office, casting restless shadows on the attentive faces that watched. It was late afternoon, and the last hours had been dedicated to unraveling each file, each recording, each piece of the puzzle that the Albright matriarch had left behind. "Bernice," Doris's voice sounded in one of the recordings, "I know everything. About Clara, about the letters, about the scheme with Oswald. The question is why? Why destroy so many lives?" Bernice's response, secretly captured in what would be one of the last teas between the two ladies, made Teddy clench his fists tightly. "Because your son needed to learn a lesson, Juracy. He always had everything. His father's admiration, your unconditional love, the talent for business. Meanwhile, Oswald lived in his shadow, and me, I was just the faithful friend, the confidant he barely noticed. So it was for revenge?" Doris's voice sounded calm, even in the face of such a revelation. "It was for justice," Bernice retorted. "Marlene didn't deserve him. She was a piano teacher without a future, a romantic who would only hinder the plans we had for expanding the business. Susan was the right choice. Traditional family, important connections. The recording continued, revealing more and more details of the plan that had separated so many lives. Lily, sitting in the corner of the room, drew furiously in her notebook, as if trying to accompany each revelation with her strokes. "There's something wrong," she said suddenly, looking up from her drawing. "The bad woman is lying about one important thing." Everyone turned to the girl. In recent days, they had learned to trust her perceptions with almost absolute certainty. "What is she hiding, Lily?" Marlene asked, who now rarely left her granddaughter's side. "It's about the money," Lily replied, showing her new drawing. In it, Bernice was seen in front of an open safe, much larger than the one in Oswald's office. She didn't do all this just for revenge. She wanted the hidden treasure. "What treasure?" Teddy questioned, moving closer to see the drawing better. "What your father hid before he passed," Lily explained. "The day he found out he was sick, he kept something very valuable. Only 3 people knew, him, Doris, and Bernice, who overheard." Teddy felt his blood run cold. His father, before passing away 15 years ago, had acted strangely, holding secret meetings with his mother. At the time, everyone attributed his behavior to the illness. "But what kind of treasure would that be?" August asked, pausing the recording. It was June who answered, her voice laden with sudden understanding. "The original deeds, the ones that prove that half of the land where the family's supermarkets stand today belonged to the former residents of the region, including the land where the biggest store is, which belonged to your family, June," Teddy completed, the pieces falling into place in his mind. "That's why Bernice got so close to you over the years. She was looking for clues. And that's why she became so interested in Clara when she found out that she worked as a housekeeper," added Marlene. "My daughter must have found something." At that moment, August's cell phone rang. His expression changed as he answered, becoming more grave with each second. "I just received information," he said after hanging up. "Bernice managed to make a call from the police station. 5 minutes later, a suspicious fire started at the farm where Clara is." "No!" June cried, rising to her feet. "We need to go there." "Calm down," Lily said, still drawing. "My mom is okay. She's not at the farm anymore. The bad woman doesn't." "No, but Mom escaped last night." How do you know that?" Marlene asked, her heart racing. "Because she's coming here," Lily replied, showing her new drawing. In it, a young woman with the same honey-colored eyes walked along a rural road, her expression determined. She found the real documents in the basement of the farm. They were hidden in an old Bible. Teddy didn't waste time. "August, we need a search team. She could be anywhere between the farm and the town." "No need to search," Lily interrupted. "She's going to arrive here in exactly—" The girl looked at the clock on the wall. 43 minutes, at the bus station. Susan, who had remained silent in a corner of the room, stood up suddenly. "I'll go with you. I need to fix at least one thing in this whole story." "No," Teddy said firmly. "You've done enough. Stay here with August and continue analyzing the recordings. We need to find out where the original deeds are before Bernice finds a way to destroy them too." On the way to the bus station, in the car, Lily continued drawing. Her drawings now showed a sequence of events. Clara, finding the documents, escaping during the night, hitchhiking with truck drivers. "She's very brave," the girl said with pride. "Just like Grandma Marlene when she was young. Did you know that she once ran away from home to give a piano concert in another town?" Marlene looked surprised at her granddaughter. "How can you know that? I never told that story to anyone." "Doris told me," Lily replied simply. "She knew many things, including where your father hid the deeds, Uncle Teddy." "And where are they?" he asked anxiously. "In the most obvious place," Lily said, starting a new drawing, "where no one would think to look because it's too simple. In Grandma Marlene's piano." "In my piano?" Marlene's eyes widened. But how? Your father was a smart man, Lily continued, her eyes fixed on the paper as she drew. He knew that Bernice was listening when he spoke with Doris about hiding something important. So he left false clues, made everyone think that the treasure was somewhere complicated, but in reality, he hid it in the safest place possible, Teddy completed, with the only person he knew that Bernice would never suspect. The piano teacher he had helped to push out of the family. The car stopped in the parking lot of the bus station exactly when a bus coming from upstate arrived at the platform. Lily smiled, putting away her notebook. "She's here," the girl announced. And indeed, descending the steps of the bus was a young woman with the same honey-colored eyes as Marlene and Lily. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and her simple clothes showed signs of the long journey. But there was something in her bearing, in her way of moving, that instantly recalled the natural elegance of her biological mother. Clara stopped upon seeing the group waiting for her. Her eyes passed from June, her adoptive mother, to Marlene, the mother she had never known, and finally to Lily, her daughter who, in some inexplicable way, had managed to piece together all the fragments of that broken story. "I knew you'd come," Lily said, running to hug her mother. "I saw it in my drawings." Clara hugged her daughter tightly, silent tears running down her face. Over Lily's head, her eyes met Marlene's. "I always knew there was something familiar about the music," she said softly. "Whenever I played the piano, even without ever having had lessons, I felt as if someone was guiding my fingers." "It was me," Marlene replied, her voice choked with emotion. "Every morning for all these years, I played thinking of you, hoping that somehow, somewhere you could hear." The two women approached hesitantly, as if fearing that it was all just a dream. June watched the scene with a mixture of joy and sadness, happy that her Clara was finally finding her roots, sad to know that she would have to share the love of the daughter she had raised with so much care. But it was Clara who resolved the impasse. Extending her arms, she pulled June into the embrace as well. "I have two mothers," she said simply. "One who gave me life and music, and another who gave me love and upbringing. I need both of you." Teddy watched the scene with a heavy heart, thinking of his own mother and how she had orchestrated it all even after she was gone. It was then that he noticed that Lily had started another drawing. "What are you drawing now?" he asked, curious. "The next chapter," she replied with a mysterious smile, "because there's still one last surprise waiting for all of us in Grandma. Marlene's piano, something that not even Doris knew was there." A hummingbird landed on the windowsill of the bus station, its wings reflecting the light of the setting sun in shades of blue and gold, the same colors as the two music boxes that had started the whole story. The blue house near the church, where Marlene lived and gave her piano lessons, was plunged into the twilight shadows as the group arrived. The grand piano, imposing in the center of the music room, seemed to have been patiently awaiting this moment for decades. The black, polished surface reflected the last rays of sunlight entering through the tall windows, creating a spectacle of light and shadow that made the instrument seem almost alive. Clara stopped at the entrance of the room, her hands trembling slightly. "I know this piano," she said, her voice little more than a whisper. "In my dreams, I always played it." Marlene approached her daughter, touching her shoulder gently. "It was your grandfather's piano. He gave it to me when I was 16, after I won my first competition. It was here that your father and I met. I gave lessons to his younger sister." Lily, who was already next to the instrument, ran her fingers delicately over the keys without pressing them. "There's music stored in here," she said. "A lot of music. And other things too." Teddy watched the scene attentively, his mind working frantically. "Dad," he murmured, You really thought of everything, didn't you? The deeds aren't the only documents hidden in the piano, Lily announced, now drawing in her notebook with urgency. There's more. Much more. At that moment, August's phone rang. His expression became tense as he answered. Bernice escaped, he said after hanging up. No one knows how, but she's no longer at the police station. And there's more. Oswald has also disappeared from custody. A heavy silence fell over the room. It was Clara who broke it. They're going to come here, she said with certainty. At the farm, I overheard Bernice talking about the piano several times on the phone. She suspected something, but she could never prove it. We have to open the piano now, Teddy decided, before they arrive. Marlene sat on the piano bench, her hands landing naturally on the keys. But how? I've examined this piano hundreds of times over the years. I've never found anything different. Play, Lily asked, her eyes shining in a special way. Play the music you were playing when you met Uncle Teddy. Marlene frowned, trying to remember. It was Beethoven. Für Elise. Her fingers began to dance over the keys, the familiar melody filling the room. But something was different. Some notes sounded slightly out of tune in a way that no one but a very trained ear would notice. The keys, Clara whispered, approaching. Some are higher than others by millimeters. She sat down next to her biological mother and, as if she had done it her whole life, began to play the same music, but in a different pattern, pressing only the slightly misaligned keys. A soft click sounded from inside the piano. It's a code, Lily explained, showing her latest drawing. In it, there was a musical score where certain notes were marked in red. Grandpa was passionate about music and mathematics. He transformed the deeds into musical notes before hiding them. Teddy and August approached, helping to lift the piano lid carefully. Inside, held by an ingenious mechanism that only opened with the correct sequence of notes, were several yellowed envelopes and an old leather folder. These are the original deeds, Teddy confirmed, examining the documents. And there's more. Dad's notes about other businesses of Bernice. Proof of irregularities dating back decades. She didn't just want the deeds, August understood. She wanted to destroy all the evidence against her. Clara picked up one of the envelopes with trembling hands. There's one more thing. Something I found on the farm and brought with me. She took an old notebook out of her bag, its pages yellowed by time. It's Bernice's diary from 30 years ago. She kept it in the basement of the farm, along with other compromising documents. Marlene took the diary, her eyes scanning the pages quickly. My God. She planned everything, every detail. The exchange of letters, the faking of the baby's death. She even had a plan B, in case something went wrong. And what was it? Asked June, who until then had been watching everything in silence. Me, Lily replied, surprising everyone. She knew that one day the truth might come to light, so she started watching me since I was a baby. She realized that I had the gift, like Grandma June. She thought she could use me somehow. The sound of tires screeching on the street interrupted the conversation. Lily ran to the window and peeked through the curtains. They're here, she announced calmly. The bad woman and the man with the fake papers. But there's something different about them now. Different how? Teddy asked, already moving to protect the documents. They're scared, Lily replied, making a new drawing quickly, because they just found out that there are more people coming, people they didn't expect. As if confirming her words, more. Cars began to stop in front of the house. From the first, Regina, the former employee of finance who had helped expose Oswald's fraud, descended. From the second, 3 former employees of the farm who had managed to escape with Clara emerged. I called them, Clara said. Before coming here, I called everyone who could help prove what Bernice and Oswald did. Heavy footsteps sounded on the porch, The doorbell rang once, twice, 3 times in a row. "Marlene!" Bernice's voice sounded strange, almost hysterical. "I know you're in there. Open that door now." But before anyone could answer, a familiar sound filled the air, the melody of a music box. Everyone turned to Lily, who had taken a third blue box with golden flowers out of her backpack. "Where did that come from?" Teddy asked, perplexed. "Doris gave it to me," the girl replied. "On the day of the funeral, when no one was looking, she said it was the original box, the first of all, the one with the most important secret." The shy girl turned the crank once more, and the melody sounded louder. Suddenly the pounding on the door stopped. "That music!" Bernice's voice now trembled. "No, it can't be." She recognized it, Lily said. It was the music that played on the day she promised Grandpa that she would never betray the family's trust. On the day he made her swear with her hand on this music box that she would always protect the Albrights' secrets. Teddy approached the door, his voice firm and clear. "It's over, Bernice. We have everything, the deeds, your diary, the proof of the fraud, the testimonies of the farm workers. There's nowhere left to run." A sound of something heavy falling. On the other side of the door, disordered footsteps moving away. When August finally opened the door, Bernice and Oswald had already disappeared into the night, leaving behind only a broken pearl necklace, the same one Susan wore on the day of the funeral. "They won't get far," August assured, already on the phone with his contacts. "All exits from the city are being monitored." As night fell on the blue house, Marlene returned to the piano. Her hands naturally found the keys, and the first chords of Furelise again filled the room. This time Clara sat down next to her, and together mother and daughter began to play, their hands dancing over the keys in perfect harmony, as if they had never been separated. Lily watched the scene, drawing furiously in her notebook. When Teddy approached to see what she was creating, he saw a drawing different from all the others. It showed all the people in the room, plus some who weren't there, including Doris and his father, all gathered around the piano, while a hummingbird landed on the original music box. "Is that the last surprise?" he asked softly. "Almost," Lily replied with a mysterious smile. "There's still one thing that nobody has discovered. Something that will only make sense when the last song finishes playing." And so, as the night progressed and the melody of the piano echoed through the empty streets of Cape May, a new story began to form, no longer of secrets and separations, but of reunions and new beginnings. Somewhere in the garden, a hummingbird beat its wings to the rhythm of the music, as if knowing that the greatest revelation was yet to come. The early hours of the morning were well underway when the group finally managed to organize all the documents found in the piano. Spread out on the large table in Marlene's music room, the papers told a story much bigger than anyone could imagine. It wasn't just the deeds to the land. It was an entire archive, meticulously maintained by Teddy's father, documenting 3 decades of Albright family secrets. "Your father knew everything from the beginning," August said, examining a particularly old folder. "He kept records of every suspicious move of Bernice, every dubious negotiation, every manipulation." "But why did he never do anything?" Teddy asked, his voice laden with confusion and heartache. It was Lily who answered, without taking her eyes off her new drawing. "Because he was protecting everyone, including the bad woman." "How so?" June approached her granddaughter, curious. "Uncle Teddy's grandpa discovered that the bad woman had a reason to do all this," Lily explained, showing her drawing. In it, a young Bernice was kneeling before an empty crib, tears streaming down her face. She also lost a baby a long time ago, but unlike Grandma Marlene, her baby really passed away. That's when she started to get angry with the world. A heavy silence fell over the room. Clara, who was examining Bernice's diary once more, let out a soft exclamation. "It's here," she said, turning the yellowed pages carefully. An entry from 35 years ago. She writes about a child she lost and how it changed her forever. Says it was when she realized that some people didn't deserve the happiness that she could never have. Marlene brought her hands to her face, silent tears streaming down her cheeks. So that was why she couldn't bear to see other mothers. With their children, she preferred to separate families than to see someone have what she had lost. "But there's more," Lily continued, now working on another drawing. "The piano holds one more secret, something that not even Uncle Teddy's grandpa knew was there." As if responding to the girl's words, a soft sound came from inside the piano, not a musical note, but a metallic click, as if some mechanism had been activated by the heat of the last hours of intense use of the instrument. Marlene approached, her experienced eyes examining every detail of the piano that had been her companion for so many years. "There!" She pointed to a small, almost imperceptible protrusion in the wood. "There's something different." Teddy and August helped to move the piano carefully, revealing a secret compartment even smaller than the first, so well camouflaged that it would only be noticed by someone who intimately knew the instrument. Inside, there was only one envelope, but it wasn't yellowed like the others. This one was white and clean, as if it had been placed there recently. "It's from your mother," Lily said to Teddy. "She put it there the last time she came to visit Grandma Marlene." With trembling hands, Teddy opened the envelope. Inside was a letter and a photograph that made his heart stop for a moment. His mother and Bernice, still teenagers, wearing identical dresses and smiling at the camera. "Dearest son," the letter began in Doris's elegant handwriting, "when you find this letter, many truths will already have come to light. But there is one last story that needs to be told. One that not even your father knew, one that I have kept with me all these years." Teddy began to read aloud, his voice choking with each word. "Bernice was not just my childhood friend. She was my sister, not by blood, but by heart. Our parents were neighbors, and when her mother got sick, my family took her in. We grew up together, shared dreams, secrets, and a promise that we would always take care of each other. When she lost her baby, something broke inside her. I tried to help, but she shut herself off from the world. Years later, when she realized Marlene was pregnant with you, Theodore, something awakened in her, not love or compassion, but a sick obsession with control. She believed she was protecting me, that Marlene wasn't good enough for our family. It took me years to discover the extent of her manipulations. When I finally realized everything she had done, it was too late for many things. But it's never too late for the truth, son. And the truth is that Bernice needs help, not punishment. She needs healing, not revenge. That's why I left all these clues, all these paths that led you here. Not to expose or destroy Bernice, but to force her to face her own demons. Little Lily, with her special gift, was the key I didn't expect, but that the universe provided. She sees not only what is hidden, but also what can be healed. There's one last thing you need to find. In the basement of the Romano house, behind a false wall, is a room that Bernice has kept intact for 35 years. It's the room she had prepared for her baby. There, you will find not only more proof of her actions, but the key to understanding her pain. And son, when you find it, and I know you will, remember what I always said. Sometimes people do terrible things, not because they are evil, but because they are broken, and broken things can be fixed if there's enough love to try. With all my love, Mom." A sound at the door made everyone turn. There, standing in the doorway, was Bernice. Her normally controlled face was marked by tears, and in her hands trembled a paper, a copy of the same letter Theodore had just read. "How did you—" Theodore began, but Lily interrupted him gently. "Doris left a copy for her too. the girl explained, in the same place where she used to hide the dolls when they were kids. Bernice took a hesitant step into the room. Her gaze swept over each face present, finally settling on Lily. "You're exactly like Doris said you would be," she murmured. "You see through people, don't you? You see the pain they carry." "I also see the love," Lily replied, extending a new drawing to Bernice. "The love you've kept in that room all this time." Bernice took the drawing with trembling hands. In it, Lily had portrayed not the empty and preserved room that existed now, but how it should have been. Full of life, with a baby smiling in the crib, and a young Bernice rocking him with love. "I never could," Bernice began, her voice failing. "I never could leave that room behind. It was as if by keeping it intact, I could pretend there was still a chance." "There still is," Lily said, taking Bernice's hand with the innocence that only a child possesses. "Not to change the past, but to build a different future." That's what Doris meant when she said, "I was the key." At that moment, as if the universe itself wanted to underscore the girl's words, the sun began to rise. Its first rays entering through the high windows of the music room. The soft light touched the piano, making the 3 music boxes shine with their golden details. Doris's original, the one from the Romano's attic, and the one Lily kept with her. And there, in that room full of stories, pain, and hopes, something began to change. It wasn't the end of the story, but perhaps the beginning of a new one in which secrets could give way to truths, and hurts could be transformed into understanding. A hummingbird landed on the windowsill, its wings reflecting all the colors of dawn, and for a moment everyone in the room could feel Doris's presence, as if she was smiling, satisfied to see that her last and greatest plan was finally coming to fruition. The Romano house never seemed as imposing as it did that morning when the group gathered in front of it. The sun was already high in the sky, but something in the atmosphere of the place made it seem like time had stopped. Bernice, now without her usual mask of coldness, trembled slightly as she searched for the right key in the bunch she carried. "I haven't used these keys in years," she murmured, more to herself than to the others. Since his last birthday," Lily completed softly, drawing in her notebook. "The baby would be 35 today." Bernice almost dropped the keys. "How can you know?" "It's written on the crib," the girl replied, showing her new drawing. In it, a carved wooden crib had a date engraved on its headboard. The same date as today, 35 years ago. The heavy door opened with a creak, revealing the dusty interior of the mansion. The air was laden not only with dust, but with memories, secrets, and long-held pains. Theodore observed that despite being abandoned, the house maintained a meticulous organization, typical of Bernice. "The basement is this way," she said, guiding them through a side corridor. Her hands were shaking so much that Marlene, in a surprising gesture of compassion, approached to help her with the light. The staircase leading to the basement was spotless, as if it were cleaned regularly. At the bottom, a solid oak door awaited, its hinges well-oiled. "You come here often, don't you?" Clara asked softly. "Even after all these years?" "Every week," Bernice replied, her voice almost a whisper. "To clean, to keep everything as it should have been." The basement was different from what everyone expected. Instead of the dark environment typical of old basements, it was a large and organized space, with several doors leading to different rooms. Lily walked directly to a seemingly solid wall. "It's here," she said, touching a specific point on the wall. "On the other side is the room you've kept all these years." Bernice approached tremulously and pressed a hidden mechanism. With a soft click, a panel of the wall moved, revealing a secret door. When she finally opened it, everyone held their breath. The room was a perfectly preserved time capsule. A carved wooden crib occupied the center of the space, surrounded by delicate furniture and toys from the era. On the walls, wallpaper with small dancing teddy bears created an atmosphere of sweet expectation frozen in time. Nicholas, Bernice said, her voice choked. That would be his name. Lily approached the crib and gently touched the carved wood. He knows, she said with the deep simplicity of children. Where he is, he knows how much you loved him, and still love him. Bernice fell to her knees, deep sobs shaking her body. Years of contained pain, of bitterness transformed into revenge, finally found release. I just wanted... She tried to say between tears, I just wanted someone to feel the same pain that I did. When I saw Marlene pregnant, so happy, so full of plans. Something inside me broke. And then, with Clara, I couldn't bear to see another mother with her daughter. It was like reliving everything all over again. Marlene knelt beside her, silent tears streaming down her face. I understand the pain of losing a child, she said softly. I lived with it for 30 years, thinking my Clara was gone. But unlike you, I had a second chance. And maybe it's time for you to have yours too. How? Bernice asked, raising her teary eyes. It was June who answered, approaching with Lily by the hand. There are so many children needing love, Bernice. So many needing someone who understands them, who protects them. And you already do that, Lily added, surprising everyone. Every Thursday, you take food and blankets to the shelter near the church. Only nobody can know because you think it would destroy your image as a tough person. Bernice looked at the girl in amazement. How do you... I see, Lily replied simply. I see when you cry after each visit, when you stroke the children's heads, thinking of your Nicholas. I see the love you try to hide. Theodore approached an old dresser and noticed a familiar box on it, identical to the other 3 music boxes they already knew. Another one, he said, picking up the box carefully. It was the first, Bernice explained, wiping away her tears. Doris gave it to me when I lost Nicholas. She said it was magic, that it would keep my most precious memories. I believed it for a while. Then I turned it into a safe to keep the evidence of everything I did wrong. Lily approached the box. It's still magic, the girl said, only in a different way than you thought. Gently, she turned the crank. The melody that filled the room was different from the others, softer, sadder, but also filled with a hope that no one expected to find there. It's the music Nicola liked best, Bernice said automatically, and then stopped confused. But how can I know that? He didn't get to... Because some things we know with our hearts, Lily replied. Like I know that from today, everything will be different. At that moment, a sound of footsteps on the stairs made everyone turn. Susan appeared in the doorway of the secret room, her face marked by regret and sleepless nights. Bernice, she began, her voice trembling, I brought something I've kept all these years. In her hands was a 5th music box, identical to the others. It was supposed to be a gift for your baby. I never had the courage to give it. The 2 women looked at each other for a long time, decades of complicity and painful secrets passing between them in an instant. Forgive me, Susan whispered, for helping turn your pain into revenge, when I should have helped you heal. Bernice took the box with trembling hands. When she opened it, a new melody joined the first, creating an unexpected harmony. It's the music of forgiveness, Lily said, already drawing the scene. Doris knew that one day all the boxes would play together, creating a new song, a song of healing. One by one, the other boxes were opened. Lily's, the one from the attic, Doris's. 5 different melodies intertwined in the air, creating a symphony that seemed to carry all the feelings stored in that room over the years. Now do you understand? Lily asked, showing her new drawing. In it, The 5 music boxes formed a circle, and in the center a broken heart was being reconstituted. It wasn't about hiding secrets. It was about healing hearts. Theodore looked around the room, at all those people whose lives had been intertwined by pain and secrets, and were now united by the possibility of healing. His mother had planned everything, not to punish or avenge, but to heal. A hummingbird appeared in the small basement window, its wings creating a rainbow of colors on the wall. For a moment it seemed that Doris was there, smiling at her last and greatest lesson, that love, even hurt, even transformed into pain, can always find a way back to the light. But Lily was already making a new drawing, her eyes shining with that special knowledge that only she possessed. "There's one more thing," she said, her fingers dancing on the paper. "Something that will happen tomorrow, when all the stories finally come together." The next morning dawned with a different light in Cape May. The sun seemed more golden, as if nature itself knew that it would be a special day. Theodore woke up early in his mansion, which now seemed too big and too empty after everything that had happened. The night before, after leaving the Romano house, everyone had gone their separate ways with the promise to meet again today. The sound of the doorbell surprised him. It was too early for visitors, but somehow he knew who it would be. Opening the door, he found Lily smiling, her inseparable sketchbook under her arm. "It's time," she said simply. "Everyone needs to go to church." "The church?" Theodore frowned, confused. "But why?" "Because that's where it all started," the girl replied, already making a new drawing. 35 years ago, when Bernice lost the baby. It was in the church that she and Doris made a promise, and it's there that all promises need to be renewed. As Theodore drove with Lily to the church, he noticed that the streets of Cape May seemed different. People were walking in the same direction as them, as if answering a silent call. In the central square, he saw Marlene and Clara leaving the Blue House, both dressed in soft tones, as if they knew something important was about to happen. June was already on the steps of the church when they arrived, her hands nervously smoothing the simple dress she wore. Beside her, Susan kept her eyes down, without her usual pearl necklace, looking smaller and more vulnerable than ever. "She's already inside," Lily announced, pointing to the church. "Bernice arrived before sunrise. She brought all the music boxes." When they entered the church, the scene they found made everyone stop. Bernice was kneeling in the first pew, but she wasn't alone. Around her, in a perfect semicircle, were placed the 5 music boxes, and on the altar, "The children from the shelter," Theodore whispered, recognizing the small faces that Lily had mentioned the day before. About 20 children, all dressed in simple but clean clothes, looked at Bernice with a mixture of affection and expectation. One of them, a girl of about 4 years old, was holding a bouquet of daisies, the same flowers that Lily had taken to Doris's wake. "Flower Maria," Lily said, indicating the little one with the flowers. She arrived at the shelter on the same day Nicholas would have turned 35. Bernice was the first person who managed to make her smile after losing her parents. Bernice looked up at the sound of the group approaching. Her face was different, softer, without the mask of hardness she had worn for so many years. "I didn't plan this," she said, her voice trembling slightly. They just showed up this morning. They said they wanted to thank me for everything I've done in secret." Flower Maria approached Bernice, extending the bouquet with a shy smile. "The flower lady said to give it to you," she said in her childish voice. "The flower lady?" Theodore asked, although he already suspected the answer. "Doris," Lily replied, completing another drawing. In it, she showed her grandmother among the children from the shelter, a hummingbird perched on her shoulder. "She came in dreams to each of these children last night. She said that today would be the day when all the stories would become one." As if responding to an invisible signal, the 5 music boxes began to play simultaneously. But this time, the melody was different. No longer sad or nostalgic, but full of hope and possibilities. "It's the music Nicholas would have liked to hear growing up," Bernice said, tears streaming down her face. "The music I never got to play for him." "But you can play it for them," Marlene completed softly, indicating the children. "They all need someone who understands the pain of loss, someone who can transform that pain into love." Flower Maria moved closer to Bernice, and with the innocence that only a child possesses, touched her face wet with tears. "Don't cry, Auntie. The flower lady said that now you're going to be our mom too." It was as if something broke inside Bernice, not from pain as before, but from liberation. She hugged Flower Maria tightly, and soon the other children joined. The hug, creating a scene that no one there would ever forget. Lily continued drawing, her fingers flying over the paper as if trying to capture every moment of that extraordinary morning. "Look," she said, showing her new drawing. In it, the 5 music boxes appeared transformed into small houses, and in each of them, a different family found its place. "What does this mean?" Clara asked, observing the drawing with curiosity. "It means that each box held not only secrets, but also promises of new beginnings," Lily explained. "Bernice's box will be transformed into the new shelter, bigger and more beautiful. Marlene's will become a music school for underprivileged children. Susan's will be a support center for single mothers." "And the other 2?" Theodore asked, noting that his daughter had drawn 5 houses. "Doris's has already been transformed. It's the foundation you're going to create in her name to help families in the city. And the last one," Lily smiled mysteriously, "the last one is the biggest surprise of all. But we'll only find that out when the sun sets. Today." At that moment, a group of hummingbirds, not 1 but 5 of them, appeared at the windows of the church, their wings creating a spectacle of colors in the air. The children laughed in delight, and even the adults couldn't help but smile at the coincidence. Or was it more than that? "It's not a coincidence," Lily said, already starting another drawing. "They are the 5 promises that Doris kept in her heart. Now they are free, flying to touch other lives." Bernice stood up slowly, still surrounded by the children. Her face was transformed, as if years of bitterness had been washed away by those tears of recognition and love. "Theodore," she called softly, "your mother always said that some people need to get completely lost to truly find themselves. I got lost the day I lost Nicholas, and I spent 35 years trying to make others get lost too. But now it's time to help others find themselves," Lily completed, her eyes shining with that ancient wisdom that everyone had learned to respect. The sun now entered through the windows of the church in golden beams, illuminating the 5 music boxes that continued their harmonious melody. It was as if each note carried a piece of history, each chord a promise of redemption. But Lily was already absorbed in a new drawing, her fingers moving urgently over the paper. "There's more," she whispered, more to herself than to the others. "The biggest secret is yet to come, when the sun sets, when the last music plays." And so, as the morning progressed in Cape May, that unlikely group of people, united by pain, secrets, and finally forgiveness, remained in the church, each lost in their own thoughts, each feeling that something even greater was about to happen. Outside, the hummingbirds danced in the air like silent guardians of promises yet to be revealed. The rest of that day passed like a dream in Cape May. After the moving scene in the church, the group dispersed briefly, each needing to process the profound changes that were taking place. But Lily insisted that everyone should meet again at dusk, this time at Doris's old house, which had remained closed since her wake. The afternoon was already giving way to twilight, when Theodore parked in front of the house where he had grown up. The garden, always so well cared for by his mother, showed signs of recent abandonment, but still maintained its serene beauty. The roses she loved so much continued to bloom, as if awaiting her return. "The flowers know," said Lily, who had insisted on coming with him earlier. "They know that today is special." Gradually, the others arrived. Marlene and Clara came together, their hands intertwined, as if trying to recover 30 years of separation. June followed them a few steps behind, her serene face demonstrating an acceptance that few would be able to have in her situation. Bernice arrived accompanied by Flower Maria, the little girl from the shelter who seemed to have definitively won her heart. The transformation in her countenance was remarkable. Where before there had been bitterness, now there was a different light, as if the weight of decades of resentment had finally been relieved. Susan was the last to arrive, still without her pearl necklace, looking smaller and more human, without her usual pose of superiority. She carried an old box in her arms, something that made Lily's eyes shine with recognition. "The 6th box," the girl whispered, already starting a new drawing. "The one nobody knew existed." "What do you mean, the 6th box?" Theodore asked, confused. "I thought there were only 5. "This one is different," Susan explained, her voice trembling slightly. "I found it hidden in the back of my closet this morning, wrapped in a shawl that Doris gave me on my wedding day. There's a note attached to it." With trembling hands, she handed the note to Theodore. The elegant handwriting of his mother seemed even more significant now. "When the 5 songs become one, open this 6th box. It holds the secret that will connect all the dots, the final truth that will complete the circle. But remember, some truths can only be revealed when hearts are ready to receive them." "Let's go inside," suggested Lily, already walking towards the door. "The sun is almost setting, and it needs to be in Doris's music room." The music room was exactly as Doris had left it. The grand piano still occupied the center of the space, covered by a thin layer of dust. The lace curtains filtered, the light of the setting sun creating golden patterns on the wooden floor. Lily positioned the 5 music boxes in specific points of the room, as if following an invisible map. "Now," she said, "each person needs to stand next to the box that represents their story." One by one, they took their places. Bernice next to her original box, the one that had held her pain for so many years. Marlene near the box that contained the memories of her music and lost love. June beside the box that symbolized her maternal devotion. Theodore next to his mother's box, and Clara with the box that Lily had kept. "And the 6th?" asked Susan, still holding the mysterious box. "That one goes in the center," Lily replied, indicating an exact point between all the others. "It's the heart that unites all the stories." The sun cast its last rays through the windows when Lily gave the signal. As if obeying a silent command, everyone opened their boxes simultaneously. 5 different melodies began to play, initially in apparent disharmony, but gradually intertwining into a unique and surprisingly harmonious composition. "Now," said Lily, her eyes shining with a special light, "open the 6th box, Aunt Susan." When the lid of the 6th box opened, a new melody joined the others, a song that made everyone hold their breath. It was the lullaby that Doris used to sing to Theodore as a child, the same one she later taught June to soothe Clara, the same one that Bernice tried to remember in moments of greatest loneliness. But there was more inside the box, a thick envelope sealed with red wax and a small object wrapped in silk. "Read the letter first," instructed Lily, although no one had asked anything. Theodore took the envelope with trembling hands and broke the seal. The letter from his mother, written in her elegant handwriting, began surprisingly. "My dears, all of you, yes, everyone who is reading this letter now, are part of a story much bigger than you imagine. A story that began much longer than 35 years ago. Theodore's voice faltered as he continued reading. When I was young, long before I married Theodore's father, there was a gypsy woman who passed through Cape May every year. She carried with her 6 music boxes, each holding, according to her, the power to unite separated destinies. In her last year of life, she called me and said that she had had a vision, that one day these boxes would be needed to heal broken hearts in our town. I didn't understand at the time, but I kept the boxes. Gradually, I realized that each person who crossed my path with a broken heart seemed destined to receive one of them. I gave the first to Bernice when she lost her son. The second found its way to Marlene when music seemed to be her only consolation. The third was for June, who had so much love to give. The fourth I kept for myself, knowing that one day my son would need it. The fifth I gave to little Lily on the day of my wake, because I knew she would be the key to uniting all the stories. But the 6th box, the one you have just opened, holds the greatest of all secrets. The small bundle that accompanies it contains proof that nothing in our story was by chance. Not even the pain served only to hurt. It served to prepare us for this moment. Theodore stopped reading and looked at the small silk bundle. Carefully, he untied the bow that held it. Inside was an old photograph and a cord with a small medallion. The photograph showed a group of young women, all of them holding babies. With a start, Theodore recognized his mother, much younger, next to a radiant Bernice with her newborn baby. And next to them, the gypsy woman, Lily whispered, looking at the photo over Theodore's shoulder. The lady of the music boxes. She's smiling because she knew this day would come. But what does this mean? Bernice asked, her voice trembling. It means, Lily replied, taking the medallion, that all the stories are connected, that each pain served to bring us here, that each separation was necessary so that we could find each other again, stronger and wiser. With a soft click, the medallion opened. Inside was an inscription in minuscule writing. Love is never lost. It only transforms like music that changes its tone but maintains its essence. At that moment, as if responding to the words engraved on the medallion, a familiar sound filled the air, not from the music boxes, but from the garden. The beating of wings of not just one, but dozens of hummingbirds, all gathered around Doris's roses. It's time, said Lily, her eyes shining with that special light that everyone had learned to recognize. Time for the last revelation. Time to understand why we needed to be all here today. And as the sun finished setting in Cape May, casting its last golden rays through the windows of the music room, something extraordinary began to happen. Something that would forever change the lives of all those present. Something that not even Doris, with all her wisdom, could have fully foreseen. As the last rays of sunlight danced through the windows of the music room, Lily began to draw with an intensity that no one had seen before. Her fingers moved across the paper as if possessed by a force greater than herself, creating images that seemed alive, pulsating. Look, she said, turning her sketchbook so that everyone could see. The drawing showed the old gypsy woman, the same one from the photograph, but now she was surrounded by a golden aura, and in her hands she held not 6 but 7 music boxes. 7? Theodore asked, his voice barely disguising the surprise. But there are only 6. The 7th box is here, Lily replied, walking to Doris's piano. With the confidence of someone who knows a path for a long time, she pressed a sequence of keys, the same notes that formed the lullaby that all the boxes played. A soft click echoed from inside the instrument, and a small secret drawer opened on the side of the piano. A drawer that not even Theodore, who had grown up in that house, had ever noticed. Inside it, covered by decades of secrets and hopes, was the seventh music box. Unlike the others, this one was made of a material that seemed to change color as the light touched it, like the wings of a hummingbird. "This," said Lily, picking up the box with reverence, "is the box that holds not only memories or secrets, but the future." The gypsy woman gave it to Doris on the day she left, saying that it should only be opened when all the other boxes found their true owners and when all hearts were ready for the final truth. Flower Maria, who until then had been watching everything in silence in Bernice's arms, reached out to touch the mysterious box. "It's hot," the girl said with the innocence of children, "like a beating heart." "Because it's alive," Lily explained. "All the boxes are. They hold not only songs, but pieces of the soul of the people who owned them." With almost religious care, Lily placed the seventh box in the exact center of the circle formed by the other six. The melodies, which still played softly, seemed to intensify as if recognizing the presence of their long-lost sister. "Now," said Lily, her eyes shining with a light that seemed to come from another world, "it's time to reveal the greatest of all secrets, the reason why Doris kept this box for so long, waiting for the perfect moment." She turned the crank of the seventh box, and a new melody filled the air, a song that no one there had ever heard, but that seemed strangely familiar, like a memory of something not yet lived. Suddenly, the other six boxes began to change their melodies, adapting to the new music, creating a harmony that made everyone present hold their breath. It was as if each note carried a piece of their stories, intertwining past, present, and future in a single symphony. It was then that it happened. The light of the setting sun, filtered through the windows, began to dance in an impossible way, creating golden patterns in the air that resembled the wings of hummingbirds. And in the center of that light, a figure began to form, not solid, but also not entirely ethereal. "Mom," Theodore whispered, immediately recognizing the silhouette of Doris. But it wasn't just her. Beside her, equally woven in light and music, was the gypsy woman from the photograph. And between them, "Nicholas," Bernice sobbed, recognizing the baby she had carried in her dreams for 35 years. The figure of Doris smiled, and although she did not speak, her voice seemed to echo in the hearts of everyone present. "Love never dies. It only changes its form, like music that transforms but maintains its essence." Lily, still drawing frantically, explained, "The gypsy woman wasn't just a woman with music boxes. She was a guardian, someone sent to protect the hearts that would need to be broken in order to later come together stronger. And Doris was chosen to continue her work." "Each box," continued the girl, showing a new series of drawings, "was prepared for a specific moment. Bernice's held not only her pain, but also the ability to transform it into love for other children. Marlena's preserved not only the music, but the strength to wait for the reunion. June's kept alive the unconditional love that would allow her to accept sharing the heart of a daughter. And this last one," she pointed to the seventh box, which now shone with its own light, "holds the greatest gift of all, the ability to start over. Not erasing the past, but transforming each pain into wisdom, each loss into the possibility of a new love." As if responding to her words, the image of Nicholas smiled at Bernice, and then gently pointed to Flower Maria in her arms. The message was clear. He was at peace and blessed the new love that was beginning to be born. The figure of the gypsy woman raised her hands, and suddenly each music box began to transform. Bernice's became a small house, representing the new shelter she would create. Marlene's metamorphosed into a miniature piano, a symbol of the music school she would open for underprivileged children. June's transformed into a tiny garden, where different types of flowers grew together, like the different forms of love that she had learned to cultivate. Susan saw her box turn into a delicate bridge, representing her new mission of uniting separated families, Clara's box became a golden bird, symbolizing the newly conquered freedom and the ability to fly without forgetting her roots. And Theodore's box transformed into a hummingbird, reminding him forever of his mother's constant presence. The seventh box, however, did not transform. Instead, it began to multiply its light, sending golden beams that touched the heart of each person present. And with each touch, memories and feelings long buried came to the surface, no longer as sources of pain, but as precious treasures that had shaped who they were. "Now do you understand?" Lily asked, completing her last drawing, an image that showed all those people not as they were, but as they could be, united not only by their stories of pain, but by their potential for love and healing. Every separation, every lie, every moment of loneliness, everything was preparation, not because suffering was necessary, but because only broken and mended hearts are big enough to contain so much love. The figures of light began to fade. But before disappearing completely, Doris blew a kiss that turned into a shower of small golden lights, like fireflies dancing in the twilight air. "And now?" asked Clara, her voice choked with emotion. "Now," replied Lily, putting away her sketchbook, "we start over. Not forgetting the past, but transforming it into the foundation for a different future. A future where no heart needs to break alone, where each pain finds its purpose, and where love can flow freely like the music of these boxes." And so, as night finally fell over Cape May, that unlikely group of people, united by pain, secrets, music, and magic, began their new journey, no longer as victims or villains of their own stories, but as guardians of a greater truth, that love, when true, has the power to transform not only hearts, but entire destinies. In the garden, the hummingbirds continued their dance, now accompanied by fireflies that seemed to have appeared from nowhere. And if anyone paid close attention, they could hear, mixed with the night wind, a soft melody, the same one that 7 music boxes once played, the same one that a mysterious gypsy woman brought to a small town, the same one that a wise grandmother kept as treasure so that her granddaughter could one day teach the world that there are no coincidences when love is involved. And in her sketchbook, Lily had saved one last image, that of a future where all those people, healed of their pains and strengthened by their love, would continue the story that Doris and the gypsy woman had begun so long ago. The story of how music can heal broken hearts, and how love, even transformed by pain, never really gets lost. It only changes its form, like the notes of a song that continues eternally, echoing through time, uniting past, present, and future in a single and perfect melody.